lot's happened since
My friends,
yesterday.
welcome to another edition of A Lot's Happened Since Yesterday. I'm actually pumped for this episode because who we have today, you guys are going to probably get a fire lit under your ass because Mr. CJ Ortiz is with us of Metal Motivation of the University of Badassery podcast. How you doing, CJ?
Outstanding. Good to see you guys, and especially my friend here, Ralph.
Absolutely.
Because, Ralph, I'm just sitting here as we were starting, trying to think of when we first got connected. And when it comes to mental motivation, I think you were, man, you were there from the outset.
It's been a long time, bro. I know it's crazy because we talk about doing what we were doing at this time, that time. Then we start doing, putting the math together and thinking about when that was. And I'm like, holy crap. I've known CJ for like probably 10 years, if not longer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we spoke on the phone years ago. You know what I mean? You and I had a great conversation. And it's funny how it works though. It all what goes around comes around. And I'm starting to notice, CJ, I don't know if you noticed this, but the community that we are involved in is a small world. It really is. It's like that ride in Disneyland. It's a small world after all. You start realizing that you have all these people that you know, that all these other people that you know also know and work with and deal with on a regular basis. And it's just like, oh wow, we're all part of this, huh? And it really is like what you do with your podcast and with metal motivation in general. Let's talk about that for a minute. How'd you get into that? Because I know you on the website you talk about it being your calling to help people. Is that how you feel? Is that what started it?
Yeah, well, I've always done something like this. It was with the advent of, social media where the metal motivation thing came about. Before that, it was called 10 Times More. And before that, it was within spiritual communities. So there was always a teaching, counseling, motivational aspect to all of it. But the other side of my life, even professionally, is in design, advertising, marketing, branding, community. And I've done that for almost 30 years. So once you had something like social media, prior to social media, people were still doing internet type marketing, right? You Google ads or you search for things. But that's the thing is prior to social media, information was searched for. And after social media, I like to say information is shared. So it's a different world, which means, if prior to social media, nobody sat down and thought, I wonder if there's a heavy metal version of motivation out there. You know what I mean? They would just look for whatever the topic was they were interested in, which was how to be more motivated or whatever. And they don't care if it's Tony Robbins or who. It doesn't matter. They're just interested in the information. Right. So metal motivation is an idea-driven brand. So in other words, it's set up for something like social media where someone can say, hey, dude, I saw this heavy metal motivator and I know somebody else who loves heavy metal. You got to check this guy out. So it was more like that. So very idea driven, and it just kind of took off from there as far as that project goes. But I was sitting in a desk just like this in 2008 and March of 2008. And I had did the 10 Times More thing. And I was watching YouTube, and there was this guy who was looked like a punk rocker. But he's from like Montreal, but he had like a Brooklyn accent. So I couldn't figure this guy out. But you could, I mean, he was cool as hell. He had a great communication style, and he was a musician. And you could tell also he was a video guy because his video was done badass. He had some fisheye lens and cool edits. So this dude knew what he was doing. And so he just kind of said, rock and roll kind of motivation. And I sat there and I thought about it. I said, if I did that, it'd be metal.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of wrote that down, metal motivation. That's kind of where it started. And about a year later, you remember Todd, who was originally with me.
Yeah. What's up with Todd?
He's good, man. He's good, married and living large. And he helps behind the scenes and that kind of thing.
All right.
But then we launched Halloween of 2009 because we always wanted the anniversary to be on Halloween, man.
Really? That's cool, man. That's really cool.
Then I met awesome people like you, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, no, dude. I remember the first time that I saw you, I believe it was on Facebook. I don't know if Metal Motivation was around during the MySpace days, was it?
We started just towards the end of the MySpace days.
Well, I remember seeing you on Facebook and going, holy shit, this guy's really cool, dude. It's like, he's doing something that nobody else is doing. And I'm like, and his persona fits perfectly with it. You know, I mean, you're in shape, you work out, you seem like a motivated person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of good things going for you. And I think it's easier, maybe you let me know your thoughts on this, but I think it's easier for people to follow someone as a leader, so to speak, with their lives and what they do in their lives, like even as much as, you know, eating right and working out. I think it's easier for people to follow someone that they feel is leading the charge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough balance because obviously we've all had enough idols in life, right? And we live in a celebrity culture, whether it's capital C or small c. Everybody's a celebrity now, and everybody has a platform, you know, to proclaim their thing, and everybody's a self-appointed social media influencer and all of these things. I want people never to confuse the message with the messenger, though.
Okay.
To where I'll tell people, you know, if there's anything I've ever said to you, people are very complimentary. I mean, they send a lot. If I never hear another compliment again for the rest of, trust me, I'm good, dude. I'm good. I get it. You enjoy. I mean, trust me, I get
it. You're done, huh?
Yeah, egos. I'm tired. Thank you. No, I appreciate. Yeah.
Are you saying you want more hate mail? Is that what you're asking for?
Don't want that. Don't necessarily want that.
CJ, do you get haters?
Not really.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is once in a blue. And I thought, because I'm on YouTube, I thought, you know, that, oh my God, trolls are gonna come out.
Yeah.
But because of the presentation, you know, because of the content and because of how it's handled, I think if I was coming on acting like a wrestler or trying to be a persona, I would open myself up for that sort of criticism. But because the content is what it is, if somebody was to troll, it'd be crickets.
Yeah.
Because nobody ever be like, what? That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, because what you're doing isn't really like, it's not a gimmick. You're very organic. It's who you are. You're just melding what you love together. So there's really not, like you said, if you were acting like a wrestler, there's targets, you know, you're being outlandish and you're like, yeah, come on, brother. But you're just being you, and your love is,
How is that,
brother?
Say your prayers, eat your vitamins, brother.
He's all ripping his shirt off every episode. Yeah, brother. You know what I mean?
I mean, it might sell, but what I'm seeing is it's just not. You're not a character. You're very true to who you are. So what is there to make fun of? I mean,
right, exactly. I tell people, I said, listen, what heavy metal did for me is what I'm doing for others. That's what it means. I love it. Metal motivator.
Heavy metal motivated you, huh?
Yeah. So
what did it motivate you to do, though? I'm just curious. What did metal motivate you to do in your life?
Metal, I think what metal did, especially for, you know, for those of us, because when we got into metal, you know, even though, like you said at the outset, Ralph, it's, you know, the metal community is still, you know, marginalized to a large degree. And we've learned to live with that. We don't care.
Yeah.
Our bands, all the bands that came, you know, from the Sabbaths to the Maidens to the Priests to the, they came and rose to greatness without radio airplay and without support from the mainstream. And they, you know, we had Rob Halford and Ozzy Osbourne in court, you know, being accused of causing kids to commit suicide. And we had the censorship back in the 80s and all of these things.
Yeah.
So despite all of that, metal still prevailed. And I can't find anything more motivating than that, because you can't become a global juggernaut like metal has become internationally to conquer every nation under heaven without vision, right? Without vision, without a fucking ridiculous work ethic, without the ability to push past resistance, to persevere, to survive breakups and deaths and destruction and abuse and addiction and all of these things, you know, exactly, and still prevail, right? So just that in and of itself. I mean, what's the biggest touring act of all time, of any kind, anywhere, is Metallica.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember I saw Metallica in 1983 And like when I took my kids for the first time a couple of years ago when they came here to my city, and they the local stadium that we have where our hockey teams play and all that crap, it's our biggest indoor arena, and it's been there for 17 years. And Metallica's attendance that night was the record attendance in the entire history of that arena. And when I pulled into that parking lot, we had to park way the hell away. And I walked through, and you'd have thought walking through that parking lot that you were walking through a Super Bowl game. There was Escalades and Mercedes and minivans and all this shit. That ain't the parking lot and the cars that I saw back in 1983 when I saw them. You know what I mean? It was more like Spicoli pouring out of the van. You know what I mean? That's what it was. That's what it was like back then. How do you? I mean, the band is called Metallica. How can the biggest band of all time be called Metallica or Iron Maiden?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people tell me they learned more about history from Iron Maiden than they did from Western Civ in high school.
I wrote college papers on Iron Maiden's history lessons. Honestly, I have done that. You're right.
It's an intelligent person's music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the other thing about heavy metal is that it's like, I tell people heavy metal, even though it's hyperbolic, in other words, exaggerated in what it says, it's honest. And so, like, if you go back, for example, to the 1950s and 60s, and we saw the reruns of some of these shows when we were kids, like I Love Lucy and, Dick Van Dyke. Remember when they would show scenes of them in the master bedroom? There was 2 single beds.
Yeah.
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 You're like, what the hell? Why did they?
How did little Ricky get here?
The story.
You look in your parents' room and there's one bed, but you're like, why is there 2 beds? I mean, that's how clinical and plastic, media and communications was until horror began to change. And so things like The Exorcist, and whatnot came out, and it was no longer this Frankenstein werewolf bullshit. It turned into real horror, and then things got more and more realistic.
Yeah.
And so everything started to change, and heavy metal did the same thing. And
that's funny how heavy metal got associated with horror. What do you think about that? I mean, not to cut you off.
No, dude, that's a fucking great question, because for me, people talk about the foundations of the origins, who started metal. I'm like, okay, Sabbath, I get it, but metal as I know it, metal unchanged, how it started and remained unchanged to me is Judas Priest.
Okay.
1976, Sin After Sin album, the song Dissident Aggressor. That's to me the birth of heavy metal, because it's no longer, it's not based on the obviously spooky stuff. You know what I mean? That there's a black figure in the end of my bed and Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. In other words, obviously evil type things.
Yeah.
You get a Judas Priest in 1976 calling a song Dissident Aggressor. You could call a song today Dissident Aggressor. What the fuck is a dissident aggressor anyway? It's got the chunking guitars the first time you hear screaming vocals. So it broke away from the Sabbath, which still had that heavy blues element. So all blues was purged out. It was literally metal, hardcore. It was metal then. So to me, once Judas Priest broke it away, and you had themes like Dissident Aggressor, and then it grew into the, Living After Midnight and Screaming for Vengeance, and then into the Iron Maiden things, and then Metallica turns it into something completely different. You're like, it has nothing to do with horror. It has nothing to do. You can make it about that. I love Merciful Fate at the time and Slayer as much as I love Metallica and Exodus, but it ain't about that. They're all just metaphors. It's all just theater. Like I'll get, because of my religious and stuff background from the past, I'll get a lot of religious people writing and saying, how could you listen to, heavy metal and don't you think? I said, listen, man, first of all, you ain't that holy. I guarantee if I went to your house, church boy, I'd find some porn.
Church boy.
I would find some porn in your history. This is theater, dude. It is theater. And it's easy to look at it and say, hey, this is evil. It's got the pentagram and the devil's horn. That's obviously evil. But the real evil, bro, even the Bible says it. It's the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And that gets everybody, man. Everybody's got evil. Everybody's got whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like, Yeah, I mean, you can sing songs like Slayer's Disciple, right? God hates
Yeah.
us all, but it's not necessarily it's not an assailing upon the divine whatever. It's an assailing upon what men have done
Yeah.
Right.
in the
Yeah.
name of organized religion and these type of things. So it's,
Because it really is.
that's
It's
the
very much
sophistication of
poetry.
metal.
It's storytelling. It's the
That's what I
theatrics
was going to
of.
say.
I mean,
Yeah.
my God. I mean, Iron Maiden wrote "Rime of the Ancient Mariner." Spoilers, people. It's a poem. Like the entire fucking thing is based on a poem. So they tapped into that core art,
Yeah.
even then.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I never considered that. But you're right. Priest is that, just strip away the bare bones and theatrics and just give me that pissed off anger that people associate to metal, that whatever is annoying you. It can be whatever it is, but they found that way to just get those demons out in a very angry way, but in a way that still lights a fire under somebody else's ass. That's the one thing. You're right, because metal not only is just angry, but it inspires you to just be like, no, I got to get it out too, so I can live.
Yeah,
Well, I
nobody takes classical music to the gym, bro.
no, yeah. Well, that's
You
true.
said it way better than I did.
That's a real good point. Nobody takes
Fucking
classical
A.
music to the gym. That's a real good point. I mean, I guess you could look at it from the aspect that it's a mental thing. So maybe if there's something that mentally evolves you and gets you to the point where you're able to get the best workout possible, then I guess classical music could be your thing, but I don't see it either. I think you need something that's aggressive to the core. I think you need something that relates to I think it's a physical thing. I really do. I think it's a human emotion. And I that's what got me into metal, because I thought that the lyrics were, in most cases, like you said, everything's kind of exaggerated, but most music does that.
Mhm.
What I liked about metal is that everything was like really interesting and intricate, and they had layers of stuff, and there's some guy that's like preaching the truth about his life on the other end of that microphone, and I was like, wow, this is cool. This actually means something. This is not bullshit bubblegum pop that's not teaching you anything. This is actually, wine is fine, but whiskey's quicker.
Right.
Manny, you're getting life lessons through the music. You know what I mean? And that's what got me into it. And then
Yeah,
I don't know, there's just something about it.
I think you have to uh, consider the fact that the motivation for any metal musician is not to get radio airplay. That's never been the motive. Therefore, their motive is to create art. Their motive is to create a masterpiece. Like, I go to the store up the street from me all the time. I live in the South, and they are always playing pop country. And you want to talk about some bullshit? Pop country.
Yeah.
The most contrived lyrics I've ever heard in my life. So when those assholes sit down and write music, they've got one thing in mind.
Sell a song.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah,
Sell that song,
Yep.
radio airplay. They want a hook and all that stuff. I don't want that as a motive. To me, that's not how I live my life. That's how I try to approach life with conviction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether I'm right or wrong doesn't make any difference. I want truth. I want authenticity. I want integrity. So to me, just knowing that the form of music I'm listening to is not mainstream, which means the people that are devoted to making it are really devoted. They're really making sacrifices to making it. And just in case, they're not even writing 3-minute songs. They're writing freaking 12-minute songs. They know for damn sure they're not going to get on the radio.
Yeah.
That means they're committed to making art in much the same way as Bach and Beethoven were committed to making art.
Right.
And so to me, it has all of these different appeals to it that, reaches and connects with my soul. And it's good to know that aggression, I one of the things I use when I say metal motivation daily screams for living aggressively, because it's healthy aggression. And we've even seen this in some of the metal documentaries like Banger Films and whatnot, when what's his name went out and interviewed the professors, and they said, yeah, there's a very real thing that happens when you listen to this kind of music. Aggression is channeled It is healthy aggression. And it helps, you know, for all of us people who are not of great stature necessarily. You know, it makes us feel 10 feet tall. It's like little Mario, right? And the Super Mario thing where he rolls around and he eats the fucking mushroom and he gets big and plows through shit. That's what it does. It's not going to revolutionize your life. It's not going to cure your brain cancer.
That's
But
true.
it keeps giving you that daily extra. And it's that daily extra over time that adds up to something significant. And I need that because a lot of life is lived in the meantime. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
got big events in life, and there's a few great things that maybe or bad things that happened this year. But there's way more days that were just the average Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But that's the crucible that forges something in you. That's what creates your next season and creates you to carry the weight of your next season. So you need something to help you in the meantime. Metal is for in the meantime, not for the highlights. It's for that daily grind where day in and day out, you are forging in yourself that kind of just steely resolve and steely constitution that's going to prepare you to face future adversity. Yeah, metal does all that. Won't cure cancer, but damn, it'll turn you into a beast.
It might turn you into an unstoppable force that'll fight that cancer like nobody's fucking business, though.
There you go.
I mean, it does inspire. I mean, go ahead, Ralph. I cut you off. I'm sorry, but
well, I was gonna say nobody ever promised that the good guy was going to win or good was going to prevail over evil. You know what I mean? You can only do what you can do. You know what I mean? But I think yes, absolutely, a motivation like that every day pumping through your blood is going to get you to do a lot more than you would do if you're not motivated.
Is it?
Because I know, you know, I've lifted weights for years. As I've gotten older, I've gotten smaller. I'm not holding on to muscle as much as I used to, which is kind of a bummer because I used to work out with pretty heavy weight and I used to have a pretty, you know what I mean, solid build. But the point is that in order to do that, you have to be motivated, man. It's not casual. And you're right, CJ. It's a day-to-day grind, man, you know? And that's all it is. I couldn't help but notice you've got a little action figure or statue of Bruce Lee behind you. Yeah, is that like one of your motivators?
Yeah. Bruce is a huge influence for me. I love there's certain people. The reason why I love Bruce Lee, I wrote an article about it. It's called Bruce Lee's Secret to Greatness, and it's about the fact that when I found out he was a philosopher, you know, I didn't know about, you know, much about his personal life outside of the professional aspect, making the movies and his personal story and how he got ripped off on the Kung Fu series. You know, the kind of stuff that you would see on any timeline, whether written or video. But once I learned more from his daughter, actually, how much of a philosopher he was, and she did a tour of his library, and dude, thousands of books, thousands. And so here was a guy who had married and embodied an idea, and I think that's why he's remembered. There's been a shit ton of martial artists since him, and even in the films, and probably better. But there's only going to be one Bruce Lee, you know, because, and I define this when I teach on branding. Branding is when it's not something that's seen in the sense of a logo or anything like that. Those are manifestations of branding. When we think of brands, we think of, you know, walking down the grocery store and you see all the brands of cereal or soup or something like that. No, branding is when you incarnate an idea, when ideas take flesh upon themselves. And so Bruce Lee embodies an idea. So in essence, he is the living expression of when the dragon enters, right? Enter the dragon. So the dragon enters into him. He embodies the idea of the dragon. So, you know, that in and of itself, and the fact that he married philosophy to an actual physical thing, a type of martial arts and a way of life. So that's, in other words, it wasn't impractical. It wasn't abstract. It wasn't separated from reality. It was the marriage of the abstract with the physical. That's what gives it a visible, where something, and it could touch millions and millions of people. So to me, yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, I don't like to be the guy who's on the internet every day saying, you got to hustle, man. Hey, I'm sick of motivational shit. I hate turning on the internet and seeing freaking memes from lame ass motivators and new age horse crap and you know what I mean, touchy feely, whatever. I'm not into that, and I don't want the other stuff. I don't want everybody now who's got big muscles and tattoos and beards and they're up there saying and every other word is f this and f that, thinking that that's all you got to do, and damn the haters and hustle, brother. And no, I'm not about that either.
Yeah,
I'm espousing a worldview, a metallosophy. It's comprehensive in nature. It's applied to everything, not just goals, not just individualism. Like I define success as simply this: maximize all that you are and all that you can do for a purpose greater than yourself. And you'll find something greater than success ultimately. And you'll find something even greater than happiness. You'll find fulfillment. Because happiness is fleeting. Happiness is, dude, I got a new car. I'm happy. Dude, I wrecked my car. I'm unhappy. Whereas fulfillment, it's got the word full and the word fill in it. If you're full and you're filled, you're satisfied. So it's a happiness that is satisfactory. It lasts. It lasts despite what happens on the external because it's based on the development of yourself for a purpose greater than yourself. That's what people want. You want direction in life? Develop you. Commit yourself to all your gifts, talents, and abilities. Take them to the max. Turn off the TV, stop bullshitting, and really develop yourself. Everything about you, your talents, your abilities, your resources. Maximize yourself as a person so that you can go to sleep at night with yourself. You know what I mean? You're maximizing your relationships, being everything you can, especially to your family and then to everybody else around you. And you create value for yourself. The more you develop that, you're seeing, it doesn't matter that you've reached millions of dollars. It doesn't matter that you live here or in that house or drive this car. None of that means anything. The only thing that matters is, have you developed the only life that you've been given? This is it. And I can't think of anything that will bring more satisfaction is to say, dude, I have turned myself inside and out to answer the call that's eating a hole on the inside of me to develop all that I am and all that I can do and do it for a higher purpose, which for me is serving other people. I don't know how money or mansions or anything like that is ever going to come close to satisfy. That stuff is so temporary, and yet the culture exalts it so much and still uses it as a measure of something. I don't care what you own. I care more about how you manage what you own. You're right, but I don't care what you own. And a lot of people who own a lot of shit. But I can drive up to somebody's house and it could be a mess in the yard and toys everywhere and furniture in the pool and the pool water hadn't been changed out. I don't need to come, grass is overgrown. I don't need to come in and meet you. I've already met you. I already know what your closets look like. I already know what your bedroom looks like. I already know what your garage looks like. I already know what your marriage is like. All I had to see was that external, because if I could punch you in the nose and pull a photo out of your chest, the image that would develop would match the circumstances that surround your life.
Wow. That's crazy, dude. That's wild. I never thought about it that way. That's true.
No, it's true. But if you've heard the analogy a bunch of times, like if you have no direction and you're looking for anything, start by making your bed. And the whole promise is wipe it down to the foundation. And if you can manage making your bed in the morning, that's a start. You've succeeded at something, and success breeds success, you know? And just like CJ was saying, at the end of the day, if you walk out and people can't even manage their own yard or their house is falling apart, there's something more behind it than just I'm a genius or I'm tired and I'm too busy. No. There's more to it, because you can find time to fix it. You can find, you don't care for a reason. I was that person 4 years ago. I didn't give a shit 4 years ago. And I did the same thing. Like you said, you have to just look into yourself and go, this is going to suck, but call out your bullshit. And if you don't do something, go, no, bitch. Get up and do it. Joe Rogan, even he classified, you got to conquer that inner bitch. The one that just goes, no, you don't want to do anything today. Sit down. Don't, go get a burger. It's easier than making a salad. Don't do it. You have to look into yourself and go, no, bitch, get up. Do something, even if it's just making your bed in the fucking morning.
Absolutely. I just did doing a series, and I run a coaching group that's related to this podcast here. The guy that, in fact, the guy that I do it with was on Joe Rogan's show.
Okay.
But doing a series on hardship, and the premise is just simply that we live in a culture of luxury and ease. Even if you're struggling to pay your bills, you're living in a culture of luxury and ease. Dude, I can reach over, flip a switch, and turn on lights. I got like food in a box downstairs.
Yep.
Keeps it cold. You know what I mean? If I need to go down the street, I can literally get in a vehicle, turn on an engine, and go. I can pick up a phone, look at us talking to each other in remote locations digitally through this weird thing called the internet. What the hell is the internet? You know? And you can't have all of that ease and all of that luxury and not think it's not going to affect you over time. Your expectations, etc. Your, you know, it'll lure you into laziness because you're not aware. You know, for the person who goes down, for the 22-year-old who goes down to the Best Buy, well, now if he orders it from Amazon, and picks up a HD TV from off the shelf, how long did it take for that TV to get to that shelf?
Yeah.
And they might answer the question, well, whatever, you know, the staff had to put it up there. No, but where'd it come from? Well, whatever company made it had to ship it to them. No, where did it fucking come from, man? It's a TV that televises images. You're picking it up, plug it into a wall. You don't understand how that electricity works. And images come on your screen. Where did the freaking TV come from, man? Because at one point in history, there wasn't any. There was nothing but rocks and air and water and grass and fucking birds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all there was. Not a wheel, nothing.
At one point, not even fucking fire.
Right. And so you don't discover cell phones under rocks. You don't discover laptop computers hanging in remote forests. Oh, look, I discovered a laptop. If we can go back, you know what I mean, tens of thousands of years, let's just say, and you can still, if you had one, fly a commercial jet airliner because the laws of flight, thrust, and lift existed, but man hadn't banged on the universe and started extracting these invisible principles and start making shit with them. So if you would have been there, you know what I mean, a few thousand years ago when there was nothing, there was still everything. The world was rich with potential and abundance. There was, in that unseen, invisible veneer, behind them was Shakespeare and recipes and Metallica and TVs and whatever. But it started with the wheel and this and that and that and that over time before somebody finally figured out electricity, before somebody started figuring out telecommunications, started to figure out that. That's how long it took to get that goddamn TV on that shelf. And if you lose sight of that, then yeah, you're going to expect the world to bend over for you. And look at how, I mean, everybody, if you listen to what everybody clamors for, what's the number one thing you hear people clamoring for? Rights.
Now more than ever.
Rights. Rights, always about fucking rights. Nobody speaks of duty. Nobody speaks of their obligation. No, they speak of their rights. Because now we're just a bunch of individuals. Our families don't even matter anymore. We're fucking political animals now.
Yeah.
That's all. And so so my identity is from the government. That's my identity. So that's why I talk about rights. But if I'm about self-government and about doing the things that preserve liberty, which is responsibility, which is the true mark of maturity. I raise my kids not to depend on me for the rest of their lives. What makes them mature? When they're responsible. That's the mark of maturity. And so I realize that for a lot of the people that I happen to live around, immaturity still reigns supreme. But it's because of luxury and ease, and they can't figure out how everything got here. They don't they know more about what the hell the Kardashians are doing or this. Like some dude was talking to me the other day. He was going on and on about fucking Escalades. I was like, dude, I would consider it a personal embarrassment if I knew that much about Escalades. You know what I mean? I can't, unless you work for Chevrolet, bro.
Facts.
I mean,
Why?
seriously,
Yeah.
man.
What's the point?
What's the use of this information?
Yeah.
Well, dude, you gotta have. No, I don't need that kind of balance, bro. I know what I'm about. So people write in, they'll say to me, dude, you just do you just do everything right? Are you just good at everything? I said, dude, you've seen me do like 4 things. I don't go on a tennis court because I don't know how to play tennis. I don't put skis on because I don't know how to ski. I don't show myself jumping out of an airplane either. And I mean, it's lawful. You know what I mean? It's there's an old verse that says all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. So it's you're not breaking any law by being into Escalades or knowing 100 different marble countertops. I'm just saying, when it comes to maximizing a life or what's important to you, I can't imagine someone in the third world being too preoccupied with those things.
Yeah.
I think, obviously surviving and that sort of thing. Whereas our challenge now is to say, okay, well, in light of the fact that things are so good, even if you're struggling to pay your bills, believe me, you got it good. In an era when things are so good, you have to impose hardship on yourself. So that's why it's important to make things uncomfortable. I walk my dog daily. And so I step outside and it's chilly, you know. So I'm like, you know what? I should be wearing a coat. I'm not going to go with a coat. I'm walking this dog high speed without a coat, and I'm going to feel it. But you know what? Because I need to feel it. You know what I mean? I need to be able to say that sucks, so I should probably do it.
That's a good point. That's a good. Let me ask you this, CJ. Yeah, since you feel that way, and I can tell that you really believe what you were just talking about, and I believe it too. I'm in actually complete agreement with you. But that brings us to the question of what brought us here. Is it technology? Did technology bring us to this point where we are expecting things to be easy? And I might add that maybe that's part of what they say every action has a reaction. I think the reaction to things being so easy for us and so instant is that now we're suffering from, a lot of people that I know suffer from, including myself, anxiety. And depression and anxiety both kind of go hand in hand. And I think that to a certain degree, the level of ease and, I want to say, almost segregation that technology, including social media, and I include social media and technology because there was a time when that didn't exist. If you had a friend, if you had somebody and you wanted to stay in contact with them, you either talked to them over the phone or you sent them a letter. You know what I mean? Now, I know that was a long time ago, and a lot of people don't know anything about that. But that's how life was. And in some ways, life seemed to be a little bit more manageable at that time. Now, I could be wrong. What are your thoughts?
Well, I can certainly understand that. For any one of those things, whether anxiety, depression, there's going to be a multiplicity of reasons, obviously. But I think what you're getting at is what I think everybody's feeling. In fact, again, I did another thing in this coaching group I talked about, and I talk about it a lot, which is angst. And angst is more the idea that came out of the existential philosophers, where they were like, after a few thousand years of thinking about shit, we're kind of at the place where, there really is nothing. There is no foundational morality. There is no real truth. We're just kind of thrown into the world. And so, because their idea was, we don't have a pre-existing essence. In other words, you come into the world as a blank slate, no morality built in, nothing, which you obviously fly in the face of religious presuppositions, but you got nothing. You're just kind of a blank slate thrown into existence, and you have to kind of find your way. And so that there's that the life ends at some point, so you're like, okay, I know that there's danger. I know that there's all these things, and I have to kind of formulate what I'm going to be and do and all this. And that creates an angst. So that's what the existentialists would talk a lot about, is this, this underlying thing. I think it's a lot like that, because here we are at the apex of civilization, where you have the height of technology. I mean, like, scary technology, dude. You've seen the video fake stuff, and
Yeah.
Just That's
Mm-hmm.
good. I mean, that's like fun to see Arnold Schwarzenegger's face on somebody else's thing, but scary when, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. No,
wrong
and
people get a hold of that kind of crap.
yeah.
But to have this apex of, be at this height, this zenith, if you will, of technology, yet at the same time, ever seen paganism so prevalent and people so dumb and into weird shit all at the same time, and casting away all tradition and morality and all of these things, and you know, it's just this chaotic thing. So the you're standing on morass, which is means wet ground. You know what I mean? The ground is not stable anymore. Now, like, I remember I was telling my kid this the other day, right after 9/11. I mean, like a couple days after this, I was just feeling this, just this deep, deep sadness. Now, it wasn't like I wasn't smart enough to figure it out, but I couldn't figure it out. And I thought, well, it must just be the loss of life, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. So I was talking to a friend of mine, and he had actually done a video series based on grief. And he said, no, you're grieving. And I said, well, am I grieving the loss of the life? He goes, probably not. He said, because you don't know those people. He says, you're only going to grieve something you really know and love. And then I said, I don't know anybody that died. He goes, yeah, you do. He said, you grew up in this country where you didn't realize this, that you had this false sense of security because you're flanked by two oceans, Canada to the north, Mexico to the south. Now, there's countries across the globe where, man, there are enemies on all sides. You know what I mean? So if you live in Iraq or Libya or something, you're worried about your borders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anybody can come through, and there's always war going on, and the Kurds against these people and whatever. Dude, we never had to deal with it. The closest it ever came to us was Pearl Harbor, and we blew them to kingdom come. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was this false sense of security. And so what was lost that day was that. Wow. They took down, you know, I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theory stuff, but I mean, but those towers came down. This was 2 days afterwards, right? So he says, that's what you're grieving. You're grieving what you had, what you knew, what you loved. But from that idea, I could see how from 9/11 to now, everything changed. And things just started to come, I mean, from every level of society, culture, it doesn't matter what it is, it's all related. Something got moved in the American heart. Something got moved in the American, and even internationally. And it started this thing to where now you've got people that are just trying to find footing. That's why we talk so much about the past.
Right.
Like you just mentioned, man, when we were younger, things were so much easier. I still know my phone number when I was 6 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I can recite, you could probably sing the jingles of the commercials.
Oh, 100%.
You know,
Yeah.
a kid, you know, and it was all, it was a much simpler time. The threats were always there, but we just were not aware of them. So now it requires a much, that's why I tell people your best defense is a stronger you. The best way to deal with angst or any of these things is to continually strengthen yourself in every way, shape, and form. And that means from nutrition to fitness to mental health, creative expression, service, all of these things work in toto to make you a stronger person, which means you can carry more.
It's facts. That's absolute facts. I've noticed a big thing too, and maybe it got spurred because a lot of people consider it it was social media was a catalyst for it, but a lot of people like living in chaos. Their filter is all about not how I can, like you just said, how can I be a better person? It's look how shitty blank is. I mean, now more than ever. I mean, look at COVID and all the stuff that happens, and you know, we're in California. It's a shit show over here. Everybody's they're shutting us down out of fear rather than rationality. And it seems like one of the biggest issues we're having as a people together is it's like we don't want to talk about what the solution is. We just want to sit and live in the chaos of the problem. And I'm trying, I don't know if that's a human thing, like a biological thing from when we were cavemen, or if it's just because of our current, maybe it's technology. Maybe we're getting inundated with all the news and the media and, you know, fear sells. So they're just throwing it down our throats. But my biggest issue was always, you know, X sucks, so I'm going to be pissed about it. Not X sucks, so how do I make it better? How do I fix it? You know, I hate my job, so I'm just going to be pissed about it. Not I hate my job, so I should find a better job, you know? And I wonder where that started, because that filter is way just off for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are they're born in dysfunction and they're raised in dysfunction and they go into the world dysfunctional.
Yeah.
You know, so they were never taught. Like if you were to sit and talk to my kids, for example, they don't spend a whole lot of time at all on social media.
Yeah.
And my kids are 33, 31, and one's about to be 23. And so, like, my kids were homeschooled. So I homeschooled them way the hell back. Way, way, way back when. You know, this is 90s, man.
Yeah.
So, and I've worked at a home since 1992. So I don't know what a traffic jam is. I have no concept of the price of gas. I got, you know what I mean? I don't go to work.
Yeah.
You know, I've always worked for myself. And so I raised my kids that way. So they're all very independent, very traditional, very, I mean, Republicans are too big government for us. I mean, we are off the beaten path, you know, libertarian and beyond, you know. We just want to be left alone, you know, and we'll do good and we'll support and we'll be charitable and we'll do all those things. We don't need you motherfuckers to do it for us.
Yeah. Heaven forbid you hold yourselves accountable.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so, you know, because I mean, politics cannot produce character.
Yeah.
And our problem as a nation is character. It's something in us. So you can't fix that with a political solution. So that's what, you know, today's person, whether Republican or Democrat or what have you, is essentially still an environmentalist. That doesn't mean you hug trees. It means you believe that change has to happen in the environment. So you're always pointing fingers at things, politicians, policies, communities, weather, race, culture, something.
Right.
You're always pointing to things external instead of personal responsibility, because personal responsibility requires something of you. I used to get people writing all the time on my YouTube channel, and they'd say, dude, I don't understand why you don't have 1 million followers. I hear that all the time. And I tell them, I'll tell you exactly why I don't have 1 million followers. I'm selling responsibility, and there's not a lot of takers.
They don't,
you know
like
what I mean?
Makes them feel icky.
Yeah, they don't want to think that it's up to them.
Yeah.
You know, and even if, you know, yeah, you grew up in an abusive home, you could tell. I mean, believe me, if I start touching on victim mentality, holy crap, you'll see some people come alive and the fangs will come out. You don't know what I've been through. You're goddamn right. I don't know what you've been through, and I don't care what you've been through. You can give me, send me, I'll sign a contract that agrees you had the worst personal history out of anybody I've ever met. I will sign that contract so that you and I can both be agreed that you lived through a shitstorm. And now that we're agreed about that you had the worst life possible and that I don't have any clue what you've been through, now that we're agreed how bad it is, we don't have to talk about it anymore. So I understand your reason for how you got to where you are. What I want to know is what's your reason for staying there? That's what I want to know.
Exactly.
Is that your way of saying shut the fuck up and pick up that shovel, dude? We got a ditch to dig.
Yeah.
I don't know what
dude.
Exactly.
No one cares. Work
man.
Harder when it breaks down to, you know.
Exactly. You don't get a do-over to this. You don't get to
Yeah.
come back and do this over. So the clock is ticking on the only life that you've got. How long do you want to sit here and have me rub your fucking back? Because the more you talk about your problems but not change, you want sympathy, not advice.
Well, you know what I've
Facts.
noticed has worked over the years, because I think everybody, you never, like you said, you don't know. You know what I mean? You don't know what this person's been through. Circumstances, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, but circumstances can lead you towards one road or another. However, you have a brain, you have a mind, and you can use that brain to its full potential and examine your options and go, which road do I really want to walk down? Do I really want to walk down this road, which is the road that I'm familiar with, because that's what, based on how I was raised, that was my environment, those were my circumstances. But yeah, at some point you have to step outside of it and go, you know what, this is not what I want for myself. So now I'm going to do it's just what you're saying, CJ.
Yeah.
You have to motivate yourself at that point. And at some point, yes, it has to be. Would it be cool to grow up with someone like CJ? You know what I mean? And have a buddy that can, when you're feeling down, help get you back up on your feet,
Sure.
clear your head, of course. But you're not always going to be in that position. However, because of the technology that we have, people can, and that's why you have your show. People can be motivated by someone like you. So, but I wonder, because I know when we started talking about this in the beginning, you mentioned that everybody's like a guru now. I wonder what your thoughts about that is. Is that something that's kind of like, because the biggest point I get behind this, the moral of the story that we've been talking about, is be responsible, not only to yourself, but to everyone around you. So what does that mean when it comes to that, CJ? Are there people out there doing damage?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a verse that says you have 10,000 teachers, but not many fathers. And, it's the fathers in our lives, the ones who, the big brothers, the friends, the uncles, the dads, the whoever's in our life that mentored us. You know what I mean? That they didn't just teach us things, they mentored us. And you need that. The coach is the one who corrects. And we need that adjustment. And are you willing to receive it? Because a lot of people, again, who want to perpetuate the victim mentality, they don't want that. They want justification for the way they are. They want people to write to them when they talk about themselves and say, it's okay, honey, I love you just the way they are. Or just the way, I love you just the way you are. I'm like, yeah, I love you just the way you are too. I just love you too much to leave you that way. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, it's saying, it's saying it's saying that I the best way to get over your past is to create a future that looks like payback for the past. So let's work together. Cool. I'm not being unempathetic to your situation. I just think we got to move on and go ahead. I say it this way. I say, what life would you live had nothing bad ever happened to you? Well, go ahead and live that life, because nothing's stopping it, right? And so long as there's all these voices out there that are driven by a profit motive, right? Because that's I get to sit in my home and tell people stuff and be the guru. And I'm only 22 years old, and I'm an hour and a half outside of my mother's womb, and I don't know shit. But if I get a really nice camera and a really slick YouTube channel and hooked up with the right people and all this, then I can, get money out of somebody else. And so when you're driven by that, what you're going to end up doing is testing the market. And I've been in these, roundtable discussions with these gurus, and this is what they tell them to do. The number one thing, Ralph, that they tell them to do is find out what the audience wants and then give it to them, right? So it seems to make sense. Well, yeah, because people will buy. So if you survey them, right, and get a poll, what topics are you most interested in hearing about? What if I raise my kids that way? I'm only going to share with you the things that you want me as a parent to share with you.
I'm curious, CJ, you mentioned earlier, and I don't think you and I have ever talked about this. You mentioned your upbringing, and you mentioned that you come from a religious family. Is that correct?
No, I actually I became religious I was actually raised in an atheist home. I became religious.
Oh, you were? Oh,
Yeah.
oh, wow.
I was baptized as a Catholic, but every kid was in New York, you know. We never went, you know what I mean? But then I made my change when I was 20 years old. And,
Oh, okay.
But it was more of a contemporary kind of religious life. It wasn't, you know, any like official denomination,
Okay.
Episcopal or Baptist or something like that. It was kind of more mainstream. And so there's a lot of motivational type stuff in it. You know, it was a mile wide and an inch deep. So it wasn't the most sophisticated comment, you know, content that they used to provide, but the community was great. And so that's where I learned about, you know, family and all of these things. And of course, you know, I was a pursuer of truth. So I kind of went through that quickly, you know what I mean? And I had to keep following the footnotes, so to speak, and keep reading and understanding and learning. So I kind of grew from there. But there was always that element that, very strong worldview, passion to learn, and, you know, strong emphasis on the kind of the elements we've been talking about. And, you know, they're not isolated to religious ideology. They're found everywhere, right?
Right.
But no,
well, would you consider yourself a spiritual person, or?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Not. I mean, I'm not. I mean, not because we say that, and it's like, well, what does that mean? You know, you could be like a tarot card reader, or you could be a monk. You know what I mean? It's like, what exactly do we mean by that? You know, I'm not a strict materialist. So I think that helps people to understand. And the strict materialist would just say all that exists is matter. There is nothing else. There's nothing beyond matter. So I'm not a materialist. So, you know, the moment you say that, then you obviously opening yourself up to things that exist beyond matter. And so if that's where everybody's most comfortable talking about it, you know, then sure, I'll leave it at that. But, you know, offline, I'll go deep. different schools of thought and all that kind of stuff. But
no, I do. I find
so
it.
You
go for it, brother.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I find it interesting that if you do take a dive in multiple religions, there are very many parallels that do correlate to, you know, what people would consider basic motivational ideas at the same time. You know, they all just seem to be, these concepts are almost universal truths that just keep being branded so we can continue to grab onto them. You know?
Yeah, my daughter, she's a smart cookie, man. Mm-hmm. She asked me the other day, she said, Dad, if you all of a sudden, you know, had your own nation, I mean, like brand spanking new, what would be your first law that you would institute? And I thought, I'm like, other than harems or no, I'm kidding.
Harems.
I said it
I
would
think
be
there's already a religion that has that covered.
Yeah,
bro.
exactly.
I'm just kidding.
It would be the one that I take from my tradition, which is, you know, love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. You know, but that's how you give expression of your love for God, is to say loving your neighbor, because you can't say you love God who loves your neighbor,
right,
and you don't love your neighbor, right? So that's where everybody, whether religious or not, they stumble on it. So to me, I'd rather know what you believe by what you do, more so than what you say you believe, or as we like to say, shut up and I can see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is that like kind of like actions speak louder than words? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I think, well, there's a verse that says faith without works is dead.
Right.
You know, there's got to be, you know, something that does it. I think people, like we said earlier with metal, you know, metal wasn't attacking God necessarily. I mean, they'll say that, but they don't know. I've never met God face to face, right? Mm-hmm. And neither has Venom, you know, or Mayhem, or anybody else.
Yeah.
nobody's met God. They're just, what they're warring against is institutions that speak for God, claiming to speak for God. They're because I think what people fear the most with belief is the implications of it. In other words, if I say I believe, well, then I'm responsible to something, and I don't necessarily like who's got the rule book for that.
Yeah.
Do I have to follow that and all that? So to me, it's about love, service, and I think we're all wired to, as Cody was just kind of alluding to, we're wired to understand these essential ideas that we know make life work. And it's funny, because I can, like we were talking about how, the religious people used to trip about heavy metal, but I can point to, you can show me the most satanic bands under heaven, bro, and they're full of shit too.
Yeah.
They're not satanic.
Yeah, they go and speak
satanic.
about sacrifice and then go grab a Starbucks.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, do they do these satanic bands with the goats on heads and upside down crosses and all? I mean, do they rejoice at the rape and selling into sex trafficking of small children?
Yeah.
Will they call the authorities when someone breaks into their rehearsal space and steals all their gear? Because if you're a good Satanist, you should love all that crap.
Yeah, they should just be like, well played, sir. Well played.
Yeah,
we have to go buy some
the
shit.
more evil, the better. The more children are abused, you should be happier as a Satanist.
Yeah.
I'm a real, not these atheist Satanists who say it's just to live your own life. Not that stuff. I'm talking about these guys who, do the satanics. They're full of shit too. Everybody's full of shit. I mean, it's just, it's just theater. It's just theater. So, I think that we'll never have a great discussion about any of these things when everybody is so polarized. And that's just where we are right now. And I recognize that. And so, if the three of us were sitting around drinking beers, at Cody's place or something, and we'll talk about, I'll go deep. I mean, into all of, I'll tell you all the theology, all the whatever you want to talk about, I'll talk about it. But I know that people don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm not here to bang the drum. And to me, I just feel like we're at a place in history where I don't want to see the death of the West. You know what I mean? I don't want to see liberty go away, because I think, another reason why I don't argue political positions necessarily is because there's always people involved in those. And if you think an American wearing a blue or red tie is not going to do some criminal shit, you're ignorant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody is capable of great evil, and we watch it now on full display, and people are talking past each other. So I just figured, well, the best thing I can do right now is go meet people where they are. Kind of like, Morpheus. Just try to unplug as many people as you can. You know what I mean? Not unplug them just from their brainwashing, but they're unplug them from, being stuck in their past for too long, being stuck in fear for too long, being stuck in depression for too long, being stuck in a bad situation for too long, being stuck in indecision and self-doubt. You know what I mean? Because people are stuck, and they've got so much incredible potential. I tell people all the time that, I could get anybody to do anything. I mean, I could take somebody from, I don't care who they are, where they live. I can take them from where they are to owning $1 billion company. Now, I don't know how to do all that, but if I knew how to get them from that place to that place, all I'd have to do is show up every day and point a gun to their head and get them to do everything that's required to get out of their situation to reach that level. Which means you're capable of 100 times more. That was why my original website used to be called 10 times more. You're capable of 10 times more. It's not an issue of whether you're able. It's an issue of whether you're willing.
Right.
And so some people who tell me, oh, dude, I can't run a mile. I can't run 5 miles every day. Oh, yeah, you can. If I go out and put a knife to your 5-year-old's throat, I'll get you to run 10 miles.
Boy. That escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
You know what I mean? You'll do it. You'll
This
do it.
is
or
why
you'll
I
die.
don't. This is why I don't have 5-year-olds. No, I'm just kidding.
Because you don't want to run
Those
10
damn-
miles.
Yeah, those damn internet gurus, man. They'll come in and put a knife to your kid's throat.
You
But
never know. So keep yourself out of the equation.
exactly. But you're capable, right? I mean, everybody's capable. Everybody has the ability to, to achieve anything they truly want to. And I'm not just, not everybody knows. I'm not talking about, frivolous things like, again, mansions and millions of dollars and all of these. But I mean, what you're wired to do, what you really have. I think if we really saw a glimpse of what we're actually capable of, it would scare us.
Yeah.
No,
We would just say, no way. I was talking, again, my kid, I know talking about my kids a lot, but I was talking to my daughter this morning, and we were talking about their cousin, which led to a discussion about when her cousin was born. And I said, yeah, when your cousin was born, I was 20 years old. And I remember that. And right before your oldest brother was born, and at that time I said, honey, I didn't see your brother. You're the next brother. I didn't see you. I didn't see anything. I couldn't see that far, but there was 2 more kids in my future.
Yeah.
2 more human lives in my future. That I could have had more. I could have done more. But, we all have that capacity, but we're very intimidated by the price. It's the price that scares us.
Yeah.
It's what it takes. It's why it's easy, to numb ourselves, as we keep saying, with Netflix or, hanging out or whatever,
Yeah.
instead of devoting ourselves to what we're really, have the potential to do, and saying, all right, you know what? I may have wasted a lot of time. I've done some good things. I did earn some things, but I know I'm capable of more, and I'm not going to beat myself in the ass about it.
Yeah.
Guilt's not going to get you there any faster. So let's just pretend like it's the first day, and let's just get right back to it as if you never faltered or failed. And let's see if we can make the second half of your life, so much more than what you did with the first. Don't browbeat yourself. People do that. They condemn themselves. They say, no, I'm not this, I'm not that. I can't do this, I can't do that. And condemn is a very harsh word. That's what you do with buildings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You condemn a building when it's not usable anymore. And that's the way people feel. That's why they condemn themselves. They don't think they're usable. They don't think they're of any good use for anybody, anything, especially themselves. And that's not true at all, man. So long as there is a capacity in you to do something great for just one other person, that's all the evidence you need to know that your life is not to be lived to itself.
I think a lot of people forget too that everybody has that capacity. Because a lot of people will kind of, I just must not be that person. And it's like, I think they forget that it's on us to find it. Whatever it is, it's on us to find our own personal it, to find that drive. It's not just handed to us. Some people are lucky. We've talked to people already on this show that got it when they were, 16, and you're like, oh, cool, good for you. I didn't get mine until I was in my mid-30s. You just got to find it, though. It doesn't matter if you're still looking. Find it,
You're exactly right, dude. And this shows the laziness again of people. Like, I'll post things, and I'm posting a meme, a minute-long video.
Mm-hmm.
How much can I cover in a goddamn minute? But, of course, all these people will comment, but what about blankety blank in this specific situation?
Right.
Oh my God. I always tell me, I can't die the death of 1,000 qualifications. Okay. But they'll say, but what about when this and this and this and this and this and this and this? I just say, you're smart. Figure it out.
Yeah. Facts. Because that should be the question. If they go, yeah, but what about this to you? Yeah, exactly. That's your job. What about that? There's your solution. Yep. Start working it.
Yeah. Number one comment I receive in the nearly 12 years I've been doing this online, the number one comment I receive is, it's easier said than done.
And yet I don't ever remember you ever saying it's easy.
Yeah.
It's just something you have to do. You
No,
know?
I always tell them this. I say, listen, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Everything is easier said than done. It's easier for me to tell my kid to mow the lawn than it is for him to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everything, by definition, is easier said than done.
Yeah.
But you look ridiculous dressed up in excuses. So now that we've agreed that everything is easier said than done, now what? Don't do it?
Yeah. And that's where
curse
they
the
think.
messenger?
They think that's the cop out. Like, no, you don't understand, bro. It's
Yeah.
it's easier
It's
said than
easier
done.
said than done. Okay, well then don't do it. Live your stupid life. And
Yeah.
why are you following metal motivation? Get the fuck out of
Yeah,
here.
exactly. Yeah, that's just a nice way of going, it's too hard, so I quit.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
too hard.
like,
So I
nah.
quit. Yeah. You've told me everything I need to know about you. You know, I don't need to
Yeah.
know any more about you. Lead. It's like they say, right? Lead, follow, or get out of the way.
Fuck
Or
yeah.
as Dimebag used to say, roll with it or get rolled over.
Love it.
Yeah.
100%, dude.
True.
100 fucking
Absolutely
percent.
true.
It's
Other
frustrating
people have
too,
to-
because on the flip side, when you're working and when you're doing what you do and you're on your path, no matter what that is, there's so many people like the it's easier said than done who look at you and go, "Oh, you need to be taken down a peg. You're just arrogant. You're just a sellout. You're just, you know." It's like, holy shit, dude. You know, get your act together a little bit.
Yeah, I can't spray enough Lysol on that bullshit and call it flowers. There's no way.
And it's not a matter of arrogance. It's just accountability. It sucks to hold yourself accountable sometimes. It sucks to look at yourself, go, I don't like that part of me. I got to change that. And it takes however long it does. But that's what makes the greatness, you know?
Yeah, I don't want it to be easy.
Fucking A.
You know,
Easy's
the
boring.
struggle is part of it, and
That's true. It's a huge part of it. Even if
Yeah.
you don't see it at the moment, huh? I think that's what happens a lot. It's like even as small as playing a video game, man. You want it to be a little bit difficult. If it's too easy, you're gonna get bored with it.
Yeah.
So, you know
dude,
what I
that's
mean?
a great analogy. You know,
Yeah.
because everybody understands that.
Yeah.
You know,
When was the
And
last
I
time
hear
we
about
played
people-
tic-tac-toe? It's fucking boring.
Dude, exactly. Yeah, nobody wants to play that, and do more people want to play checkers or chess?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and we need that, and it's, I don't know, man. I think we're scared to death of having the spotlight on us
Mhm.
for anything. Nobody wants to be told it's their fault, and so they're gonna naturally point to what happened to them, and I get it, you know. And again, we can all agree that your past was difficult, but what's going to be, I get the reason why you're in the bad situation you're in. It's your past. I just don't know the reason why you choose to stay there, because if you stay there, you're rewarding those who hurt you.
Right.
Not only did they cause you pain, but they ruined your future. That's why, again, the best payback for the past is a future that
Right.
looks like payback for
Yeah.
the past. So let's create the life you're actually capable of creating just for the hell of it. Just because you're a thinking person with limbs who can move and create things. You know, I have a lot of pep talks with myself, and there's a constant monologue. I have a shirt that says my self-talk is metal, but when it's not metal playing in my head, there is I'm constantly talking to myself, constantly, because I have a lot to do every day. Some of it physical, some of it desk work, some of it other things. And dude, I wake up every day too going, fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this again. But there's the other part of me that says all it is a series of physical movements. That's all it is. You make it more than that. You make it
Yeah.
something to dread. My body could do whatever I have to do on any given day, and about 10 times more than that. My body could do a lot. Even when I was dead dog tired, it could still do all of this. So I know I have the physical and the mental capacity to do everything I have to do in a given day. I'm the one who's acting like a baby.
It's a choice. It comes
a
down
choice.
to a choice. Do I want to do it or not?
Yeah.
And that literally, the scary thing is, isn't it? It's literally everything.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want to choose to sit in a shitty job? Choose to sit in a shitty job. You want to choose to sit in chaos because somebody beat you down? Go for it. Or you can
Yeah.
choose to change it and go, look at me now, motherfucker.
Right.
You
Exactly. See,
didn't
people-
beat me, you know?
Like there could be people listening and they're like, okay, I get it. I'm responsible. I get it. So, but I'm not like that. I'm not disciplined. I'm not, you know, I'm not motivated all the time. I can't, you know, so what do I do? And that's a fair question.
Yeah.
You know, how do we get you from being who you are into a beast of achievement? Well, it's not that hard. It kind of goes back to what Cody was mentioning earlier, you know, when making the bed and that type of thing. You got to where you were not by one significant defeat. You got to where you were by a lot of little defeats that add up over time. It's like the failure of marriage. Marriage is the over 50% divorce rate does not come because of domestic abuse and adultery. Right? That doesn't give you
no.
over 50% divorce rate.
No.
What gives you over 50% divorce rate is a lot of little shit over a long period of time.
Facts.
Yeah, that's
You know
true.
what I mean? And so people don't realize that, oh, it cost me when I ignored my wife when I walked in the door every day. It cost me that I wasn't affectionate back. It cost me that I didn't take more time for some getaways. It cost me when I didn't spend the time with my kids. All those football games cost me. They cost me, you know? And so I can't act like it didn't,
Right.
that somehow this is unfair. But it's the same thing, which means the opposite is true. To improve any sort of relationship is based on the little things. And that's what makes it easy. But here's the thing is if you got where you were by a bunch of little defeats that added up over time, then you get out of it by a lot of little victories over time. You don't have to achieve something great right now. That's not what you need to do. Like Cody said, you just need to make that bed. But you got to do it every day. And then you need to make that bed and one other thing, you know, maybe in the next week. Then you got to make that bed, do that one other thing, and 20 push-ups. You know, on the week number 3, week number 4. Just start getting used to these little victories. And when you do them, I tell people to do this all the time. Every time you do something that shows your responsibility, you know what I mean? You clean something up, you did this. I don't care if it's just putting dishes in the dishwasher. Make a big deal about it. High five yourself.
Yeah.
Exaggerate it.
It
Like I
sounds
do it-
silly, but it works.
It down.
Yeah.
I do it to me. I'll say I'll move. I'll clean stuff, and I'll say, "Yep, that's what champions do."
Nice.
You know what I mean? That's what doers do. This is how we get shit done. This
Yeah.
is how we do it. Just like I did the same thing with my kids when they would sit in their high chair when they were little. They don't want to eat no fucking broccoli, dude. There's nothing that appeals to a kid in a stalk of broccoli or peas or whatever. But when they first ate one of those pieces of broccoli, you don't think me and Mama raised the roof
Oh yeah.
when they did that? We were like, yay! You know what I mean? I want to associate celebration. You can't celebrate victory enough. You got every reason to celebrate. Every day should be celebration. Every day should be celebration. I can't find enough things to be depressed about. Granted, there's physical things that are involved with, I had one of the guys in our coaching group who was wife of many, many, many years, shot herself.
Oh, good Lord.
And, that's depression that you don't fix with a pep talk.
Nope.
No.
You know what I mean? That's serious chemical stuff that people deal with, I do think there are things we can do to help offset that. Like when I used to coach a lot of people one-on-one. I don't do it much anymore. But if I were to continue doing that, and I started to do it before I quit, but I would tell people when they would ask if I might work with them, I'd say, well, unless you're committed to changing your nutrition and adding serious fitness to your life, no, I can't help you. Because I guarantee you, if we do those two things, especially on the nutritional side, probably 40% of the stuff that you're writing into me about will go away all by itself.
Yep.
And you probably figure out you don't even need me. Because so much of what you feel is based on the crap you put in your mouth. And, for them, they say, no, it can't be. Well, shoot, dude, if you don't get enough sleep, right?
Yeah.
Aren't you a grouch? If you
Aren't you a grouch?
you know what I mean? it's just, I mean, how good do you feel if you've slept? You know what I mean? If you have some good hard sleep, it's like even without great nutrition, you feel pretty badass. Just if you got some sleep. I think a lot. I mean, to me, I tell my kids this all the time. I say, I'll fix the world. America right now needs a nap.
Yeah, 100%.
That's how we dealt with back in just there when the kids just running around banging in. Just y'all go take a nap.
Yeah,
Y'all are fussy. Go take a nap. But you feel good when you get rest, but even more so when you treat your body right. And I'm not crazy. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to enjoy certain things and delicacies and what, absolutely. But for the majority of the time, that you're not taxing your body, which is why I'm very glad about, a lot of the new, they're not new. They just happen to be new to other people. But, some of the dietary trends, people going low carb, cutting out a lot of the sugar, and that sort of stuff. I think it's good, because I'm a keto guy. I've been keto for years. But so people will ask, do I need to be keto? No, you don't need to be keto. If you are just, again, eliminating a lot of the preserved crap and the excessive carbs and the sugars, and you're beefing up that vegetable content, that in and of itself will revolutionize your life. So I don't care if you're vegan, I don't care if you're whatever, just that in and of itself will revolutionize your life significantly, because you're suffering from, like I had gotten off certain things on the vegetable portions for like 2 or 3 days. And all of a sudden, I mean, all day long, my heart was like palpitations, like all day long. Now, I just been to like the heart doctor like a month ago, and he said, and which I didn't, he said, you've had this since birth. He said, but I caught a murmur. A murmur's different, but he goes, I caught a murmur. And he said, it's because you have a bicuspid aortic valve.
Okay.
It means you got 2 little cusps instead of 3. You're supposed to have 3. He goes, now you've never known it. You've had it your whole life. It's genetic. Nothing you can do about it. Can't exercise. Nothing helps it. It hasn't bothered you. It's moderate right now. It may not ever bother you, but one day it may give out, and you won't be able to get on a treadmill for 5 minutes. That's when you'll know it's time, and you got to replace that valve. So having had that diagnosis, and all of a sudden I've gotten these palpitations going on all day long, I'm like, your mind starts to wonder what the hell's going on. But I reverted back to my science. I reverted back to what I know, and I know about mineral deficiencies. And I know that, what happens in the body is all electrical. And these minerals and things affect the electrical impulses in your body. And so I said, I know what my problem is. Potassium. It's potassium. So it took, 1 day? And I scarfed a shit ton of greens and got and some avocados. Within a day, it was completely gone. And I said, yeah, because you got off course for a couple of days and your body's starting to react to, because it drained itself of all of that potassium.
Right.
So, I mean, if you don't know, and I'm not a nutritionist, you know what I mean? I'm just YouTube and whatever, but I mean, I know enough to know what I need to do to keep my body working. But most people, they don't know that. And they're fucking shoveling Twinkies, dude. I feel for them, man.
You can tell that when I think you can tell when you're off balance and when something needs to be realigned. Even Godsmack, Celierna, that was one of the lines in one of his songs. All he needed to do was realign. And so that there's truth to that. And that's a good point that you make. But not everybody has that meter, that sensor that goes off when they're out of whack with themselves and the balance. I mean,
or they attribute it to different stuff. They might have the sensor and go, "Oh, I had too much caffeine today," or something like that, and then just kind of shut it down.
But if we're going to look at it from a larger scale view, the whole world is kind of out of balance right now and out of whack, And without getting too much into a the philosophy behind that, I should say, because to me, it's very similar to the philosophy behind Christianity. but I don't want to take it to like a religious viewpoint. I want to keep it, somewhere, you know what I mean, where you're not, I kind of keep it neutral. So for the most part, though, I do think that there is a philosophy that will help you to find balance. However, you can't change people around you, though. So what do you do in that situation?
Yeah, well, I think, again, one of my things I say a lot is your best defense is a stronger you. And so the best investment you can ever make is to continually build yourself up. And if that's all that you do, you're going to find life satisfaction. You're going to find direction in your life where you claim you haven't had any direction. You don't know which way to go. Everything is found in developing yourself. You don't like people, because people are fatalists. They're fatalists in the sense that they say things like, it wasn't meant to be. Meant to be by whom exactly?
Right.
Or you two, you see this on Facebook all the time. Oh, you two were meant to be together. They break up 2 weeks later. It wasn't meant to be. Well, what the fuck, which is it?
But they were soulmates.
Say, yeah, exactly. Or they'll say, oh, everything will work itself out. Really? The only life that's going to get worked out is the life you don't want. You have to work life out. And I think people need to realize they're so much stronger. And so for me, I see the world going crazy, but I'm not too fazed by it, because, I posted this, my political position actually on Facebook the other day. And I said, why I'm not a Democrat. I said, I'm not a Democrat because everything that they value and believe, whether it's good or not, can only be implemented by government. That's it. All their values and beliefs have to be implemented by government. It has to. There's no other. They don't allow people to implement those things on their own. It has to be done by government. Therefore, if they're not in power, they're not at peace. Why I'm not a Republican? Because they're Democrat light.
Democrat light.
They just want a little bit of government.
So why I'm not a libertarian? The libertarian ones, I just kind of poked at them, but I said, well, because they're too stoned and they don't really have they're just, which libertarian are we talking about? Right. They're all different, whatever. I said, so they said, well, so what's your political position? Well, my political position is trying to dodge your political position. So I realized that ideology doesn't get me very far, and I've only got so many decades to live, and I'm already in my 5th decade. So I don't have many left. So I can't change the world. So idealism and beacons of hope and political slogans don't mean shit to me. The only thing that I have to do is, no matter who's in power, because everybody else is clamoring for it, means I have to make adjustments. I had to make adjustments when the Republicans put in the TSA, right? I had to start leaving to the airport a lot earlier. I had to do, I got to do what I got to do, and then the other group put in the healthcare stuff. And so that meant I'm going to start now paying this much money or penalized if I don't do this. I just got to adjust it.
Right.
So I call it defensive driving for life. So I just, does that mean I don't, well, then you're not voting. No, I didn't say I didn't vote. I'm not a partisan. I'm not committed to any groupthink whatever, because you guys are going at each other with machine guns. Yeah. You're ready to kill each other. You are wishing death upon each other for something that really doesn't affect your life all that much. Yeah. I've lived through a lot of presidents, and I can still order pizza and watch football if I wanted to. What the fuck has changed with all these politicians? You act like it's the end of the world, which tells me, again, you don't identify with local community or your family or blood or anything like that. You identify with the government. Your whole identity is determined by what political party is in charge. And that ain't me, motherfucker.
I equated it. I was talking to my mother about it, and I said, I equated getting into an argument about politics nowadays is more like, debating on who your favorite Star Wars character is. We don't have all of the truth of anything they're going through. It's a world of shadiness and deals and back-ended favors and all this shit that we're not privy to because we don't need to be. Everybody has their own world, and you don't know what anybody else has been through. And yet when you talk politics, everybody immediately knows everything. You know?
Oh yeah,
and
they're
it's
experts. Man.
yeah, and
Yeah,
it's just like, dude, we might as well just argue about the Avengers because
Yeah.
we don't know, and I know more about Avengers than I do about politics. And
Yeah.
there's probably more truth behind Avengers nowadays than there is what they're feeding you about politics.
Right.
So it's like, why
Yeah,
would
I
you
used-
get pissed off at that stuff?
Nah,
You know,
nah.
we don't know.
I say all the time that debating over politicians is like arguing over which pile of shit smells the most like flowers.
Exactly. 100%, dude.
Okay, whatever, dude. It's like, I mean, I don't, I hate to, I mean, there's, I'm not just saying that every politician is bad or evil, but
Yes,
it's
you
like,
just did.
I didn't say they're evil. I said they smell like a pile of shit. I mean, it's like you don't get to these places of power in industry or anything without doing some things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Without compromising some things. And this is not what the founding fathers set up for us. If you go back prior to 1865 or 1860, should we say, before the Civil War started,
Right.
congressmen would only be in Washington, D.C. They would travel and they would stay in these hotels with just cots, and they would only be there for 2 weeks out of the year. So, the whole purpose of the U.S. Constitution was not to strap you and I. It's a document that was to tell you the limitations of the government. That's what it was for.
Right.
So that's why before 1860, they used to say the United States are. After 1865 and into the Civil War, they would say the United States is.
Right.
That's when we became just like the USSR. We became this centralized bureaucratic system. It's amazing we survive, and I think that's because we've got freedom in our veins. But anyway, see, we have less than a minute here, bro.
Do we got less than a minute? Okay.
I would agree with you there, dude. We have freedom in our veins. That's a great statement right there. Hey, CJ, can you let everybody know real quick where they can find you? I think our fans would love to check out some of your stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, just metalmotivation.com, and from there you can get to all my social media stuff.
You heard it, guys. Metalmotivation.com. Check it out. I've known CJ for years. He's fantastic.
He's a real deal, people.
He's the real deal. He comes from the heart, from truth. He can do a lot to help you get motivated to change your life if you're looking for that change.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, CJ, for coming on, brother.
Thank you,
guys.
CJ.
We appreciate
it so much,
having you, bro.
We'll talk again soon.
Absolutely.
Sounds good, brother.
All right. Until next time, everybody. Peace.